Well, welcome to Flight Lines, the stories behind the stories. And my guest this morning is Sarah Beth Murphy, right, from the Economic Development Office here in Highlands County. And a very important part of what we do here in the county is bringing industry and business into the community. And we have a very, very active Economic Development Office. And I wanted to explore that today with Sarah Beth. You're the executive manager of the
I
Highlands.
am. Yeah. Thank you so much for having me on this morning. I've been so excited to get to sit down and talk to you and share more about what we're doing in economic development and how important what you're doing is to our work too. And so, yeah, I sure am.
Well, yeah, you could have done most anything, I imagine, in your life, but how did you get started in economic development and what was that journey like? Tell us your story.
So I always make a joke, and I probably shouldn't make it anymore about economic developers. But if you talk to any economic developers, the majority of them say that they fell into economic development. And I like to joke that they are business school dropouts because that is what I am too. And they have like the personality and extrovertedness to close the deal, but maybe not the math skills. And so that's precisely why I dropped out of my MBA program is for that. But I definitely fell into economic development. I grew up in Highlands County, Highlands County, went off to college, came back, worked for United Way for a little bit.
I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah. And then ended up working getting a job with the county in the Children's Advocacy Center. And I managed that program for a couple of years.
With Jeff? No, it's what Jeff up there?
No, I was one of Jeff's predecessors, or
Okay.
not predecessors,
Followed.
followers. Yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes. But Jeff was a great mentor for me while I was at the CAC, and that was really cool. But my director who hired me was Leah Sauls, and then she shortly moved over to the Development Services department. And I really just loved Leah. I loved her leadership abilities.
Yeah,
I
she's
felt like I
amazing.
worked really well with her. And so when there was an opportunity to work underneath her again in an economic development job, with that, I kind of followed Leah for her leadership, but I knew I had a lot more to learn from her. And so that's kind of how I fell into economic development. And it's turned out to be a really fun and cool job for me because I get to help Highlands County, a place that I love, a place that raised me, and be a part of its growth. And I think that's a really exciting and cool thing to be a part of.
Are there, Sarah Beth, are there particular industries or businesses that the EOC is I won't say targeting, but looking at developing even more than we have?
Sure. So we have our own priorities, our own industries that we target, and that's based off a lot of research. And we've done a strategic plan, and that's helping to guide us. But then the state also has targeted industries too. The state's very interested in the aerospace industry. They're very interested in defense. They're very interested in manufacturing. We are also interested in the aerospace industry. I think that's a really cool niche thing that we have in
Yeah,
Highlands County.
I'm kind of biased
Yeah.
about that.
Well, it differentiates us from a lot of the counties that we are in communion with and that we work with very closely. We're part of the Florida Heartland Economic Region of Opportunity, which is a rural area of opportunity in the state of Florida. It's that loops us into a group with Hardee and DeSoto and Hendry and Glades and Okeechobee counties and a couple other municipalities, typically. But we really are the only ones out of those who have this really neat niche aviation industry that's blossoming here. And so that's one of our differentiators. And so we really like that. We, of course, are always going to go after manufacturing projects. I think logistics and distribution is a good area for us. And we're kind of naturally seeing some logistics and distribution type companies here. And of course, Highlands County is built on agriculture. So we're still looking for ways to help keep that going and preserve some of that culture in Highlands County as well.
Well, when you talk about logistics and the different things there, one of the titles or labels that the airport has here is a logistics center, and when you look at all the things that are here at this area, because it took me a while to figure it out and to use the correct terms, but there are really two things here. There is the Sebring Regional Airport, but bigger than that is the Sebring Airport Authority, which has the whole industrial complex and the racetrack. And then we're a free trade zone on top of that. So really, it's one of the major economic engines of the county.
Absolutely. The Sebring Airport or the Sebring Intermodal Logistics Center is a phenomenal asset to Highlands County. Absolutely. I often refer to it as our industrial hub because of the variety of businesses that are around here. You don't just have aviation. We have a lot of construction related manufacturers. We have a fertilizer manufacturer. There's a lot of really neat things that are happening out here at the airport, and they do over $1 billion of economic impact if you include the whole airport property, which includes the racetrack too. And there's a lot of room for opportunity. And anytime I have a business that comes to me and says they want to do manufacturing or something of that sort, I always send them to the airport first, if they're interested in leasing property, because I know that they're in good hands with Mike and Andrew and the airport board. I know that they're going to be taken care of.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the key things that I've discovered. I've been involved in this area for almost 30 years when we came down from Wisconsin. And I remember one of the folks that introduced me in the school district and kind of mentored me around, Craig Sowers, was teaching at the high school with me, took me out here, and it was nothing like it is now. I mean, we had the old Quonset hut where this building sits. And I mean, just to see its growth, and that's one of the things I'm going to explore in the near future with Mike Willingham is how did it happen? You know, it's pretty amazing. That's another story behind the stories. You know, when you talk about manufacturing, one of the exciting things that I see happening is Duke Propeller when they're going to build their manufacturing facility here. I talked to Gatan here. We did a podcast last week, and one of the neat things that happened with them, well, we had, and we still have our aviation high school program going on, but a lot of the kids that were in that program came over and interned and job shadowed with Duke. And Luke Halpern was one of the first that went through it. Now he's married in California, working for an aerospace company. I asked his dad, Mike, who's running the high school program, I said, what's Luke involved with? And he said, well, he'd tell you, but he'd have to kill you. Type thing. So I thought that was pretty cool. But again, it started with Luke going over to Duke, and other kids have done the same thing. You know, then there's Lockwood. My kid Phil, many times we're like an employment agency for it because so many of the kids have gone through the program, went over there and worked full time. I think there's 5 of them right there right now. I mean, so the point I'm making is that a lot of the things that are out here in regards to aviation aerospace, we're trying to get our kids involved in that so then they can look at what their options and opportunities are and stick around.
Yeah. And you know, that workforce pipeline is such a huge sell to companies that are looking to land somewhere. They have to know that they can have a workforce. And so with how robust the aerospace program is here for our high school students and the clear pathways that you guys have built for them to actually intern at these companies and work for them, that's a huge sell for a lot of people who are looking to land in a place.
Well, I think it's a concerted team effort. And I often, you know, people have asked me when this whole thing started almost 28 years ago, and we formed an informal partnership between 3 entities, the airport, the school board, and the EAA chapter. Each had their own agenda, their own purpose, but we had a common goal. The common goal was to get more kids involved in aviation and aerospace education. The airport agenda was to get people physically out here to see what this place was. I mean, a lot of people, you go into Sebring at times early on, they didn't know we had an airport. They didn't know it was out here. The school board wanted to create a more technical program and add to our career and tech ed offerings. And then the chapter wanted to increase membership with families. And it all worked out, you know. So when you look at when someone comes and approaches EEOC as a business or an operation of some sorts, how do you work with them to find out what they need and then match that with what we have?
Yeah, so our office has 2 primary functions. So we do business recruitment and then we do business retention and expansion. So we have an avenue to work with our companies that are already here, that are looking to grow and expand, and we certainly want to help support them. Then we have an avenue where we're actually going out and trying to recruit the businesses that fall within the targeted industries that we're looking for. And when a business comes to me, I tell them, treat me like a concierge, like your business development concierge. My job is to have the relationships with all the partners. My job is to understand how the economic or the development process works in general. And my job is to be able to direct people from step to step to make sure that they have a pleasant experience developing in Highlands County.
What are those steps?
So the first one would be making sure that they're a good fit for Highlands County if it's a new business and making sure that we have what they need and what's available. And so addressing any kind of workforce concerns, education concerns, looking for a site that would suit them well. A lot of times we have to look at doing new zonings or comprehensive plan amendments and then going from there to actually the planning to construction phase, which requires a lot of coordination with the different engineering departments and our building departments and so on and so forth. And then once a building's up and they need a higher workforce, connecting and call those folks to make sure that they can have the proper employment that they need and their employees have the proper training.
So you're working with Donna at
Yeah.
Career Source.
Yeah, they're phenomenal partners.
Yeah, we've done a podcast with Career Source to find out what they do. I mean, when you look at this whole economic development effort, there are a lot of partners.
Mm-hmm. There certainly are.
You know, you mentioned Career Source and all the resources they have. What's it like working with I won't say bureaucracy, but at least the structure of the county development as far as zoning and the building codes and all those types of things? What's involved in that?
Well, I will say it took me a while to get used to the rules, the regulations, and really understanding how the development process should work. It helps that I'm an internal person, an internal partner for them. I'm employed by the county. Our office is fully funded by the county, so we're a fully or public entity. And because my office is in the same office as our planners and our zoning officials and our building officials and our engineers, it makes it a little bit easier for me because, you know, I
You
think a
develop
lot of
that
times,
relationship.
yeah, and a lot of times it's just a matter of breaking down communication barriers too. So you might see tones and emails going back and forth that aren't so friendly, but if I can go walk down to someone's office and knock on the door and say, hey, this is what they actually meant and this is what they actually need, and I don't know if that was communicated well, then that goes a long way.
Sure.
You know, so I think it's a big part of my job is kind of breaking down those communication barriers and then on going to both ends saying, I'm on your team. I'm on the team of the officials at the county who want to see development happen and want to see it done in the right way. And I'm on the team of our projects and we want to see their projects come to fruition. And so balancing those two parts of the team, being the middle person and breaking down communication barriers.
I would think, and I'm just supposing here, but I would imagine one of the challenges that you're facing is impatience from the people who want to come in.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, they want it now.
Yeah.
They want a turnkey operation.
You know, time is money. And so, and that's a big thing too. You know, you want things done the right way, but you also understand that some of these companies are making sizable investments in Highlands County and they are going to land and make a difference and hire local people and do all the things that we encourage and want to do. And so sometimes it's just a matter of sharing that perspective to my other team members and seeing where they can help me push these projects across the board is a big part of it too. But, you know, we also have to follow the rules and we also have to make sure the people in those buildings are safe and things are developed the right way.
How have you worked with another project that, again, I've done some podcasting with Bill Collin with the racetrack development, the hangars on here on this site, but also the condos and garages and the coming, the term he used, but the special use stores and the things right there to the corner of 98 and Xavier Taylor. Tell me about how you've worked with that.
So that's actually a project that we have not been directly involved in.
Really?
We have communicated a lot with Bill Clone. He's hosted one of our ABC meetings for us, and we know what's going on. And so we're in a position where we can advocate for his project, but we're not in any kind of position where we're facilitating any part of his development process per se. And that's, you know, we really step in when someone really needs help. When Bill Clone just really hasn't needed our help. So
he's pretty self-sufficient.
He's very self-sufficient, which is exciting. And so that's, you know, one of the things too is a lot of times we hear, well, development's not happening. And I'm like, no, it really is. And if you're not hearing about it, that's a good thing because we're not meeting any kind of controversy. And it means that some of these projects that we're not hearing about are having a good experience in Highlands County. And hopefully they'll go tell their friends that. A couple of the projects that I have been involved in are the Amazon distribution facility that came into Lake Placid.
That's pretty cool.
That's really cool. And so like that was one that we were involved in from the start to the actual finish of that project. And so that came from, they found their site through, we did a Duke Energy site readiness study is what it is. We've done for Highlands County. We actually did one on the airport too. And what Duke Energy does is they go in and they look at sites for us and they give us kind of a checklist of things we can work on. And so I spend a lot of my time working on planning out infrastructure and working on some of the back end projects that we have sites that are ready for businesses to come into. And then Duke, on the other hand, also markets the site for us. So they marketed the Lake Placid site. Amazon found that. They called us. They said, hey, we're on a contract. Lake Placid, help us with the next parts. And so we were able to help with their zoning and land use changes and working with the town of Lake Placid and the county and their whole development process. And that was a really cool learning experience. It took 2 years to get that project off the ground. So that was
I imagine sometimes when you're doing this, there's certain things you can share and certain things you can't share as it's being developed.
Yeah.
And then maybe fighting off the rumors or the things that maybe aren't totally factual.
Yeah. There's a lot of that. And I would say the majority of our projects that we're working on now, we have NDAs with, and we have to stay quiet about them. And that's the one part that's frustrating is you hear there's an NDA everywhere and that you could go develop. And there's people who are naysayers. And so you're just like, no, 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 there are really cool things happening. And I promise you they're coming. But to not be able to talk about that is really difficult.
So I won't quiz you. You'd have to kill me. Well, that's pretty exciting. Now you mentioned that you're funded by the county, and tell us about the team that you have there. Because when you go to the website, there's a whole number of people that are on the website. So who are they, and what do they do?
So our core team is, of course, Leah Sauls is our director of development services, myself, and then Yuri McClinkus, she's our economic development manager, and Kelsey Little is our economic development coordinator. And Yuri and Kelsey and I all kind of split up the different subject matters in economic development. So I spend a lot of time on site development. I'm starting to dabble into more grant writing, especially as more infrastructure projects come up. Urema focuses heavily on workforce and education. So she's our main conduit with the school board, the college. And
Who is that again?
Urema.
Urema. Okay.
And then Kelsey does a lot of our marketing and our boots on the ground business research expansion efforts. One of the things that she's working on now that business owners want to know about doing is passing out disaster preparedness kits. Because we're part of the county, we also serve in a disaster support function. And so for the county, our job is business recovery. And so if a business, say, a roof blows off or something during a hurricane and they call the EOC and ask, what do I do next? They'd get transferred to us. And we're already in the business development world. And
Kind of Red Cross business.
Yeah. So then we get to do the referrals to the SBA and the SBDC and provide guidance that way. And so she's going around meeting businesses right now and sharing some of that information, how to prepare for a disaster and how to recover and what your response should be immediately after if you're a business owner.
Wow, some service.
Yeah. Well, we do our best,
You're getting to an unfortunate end, but then rebuilding. Let's hope we don't have any coming this year. When you look at like just some of the challenges from our weather, what other challenges and things are we facing here in this county, economically wise?
Well, I think, one thing that we hear about a lot, and we hear about it a lot from our neighboring communities too, is workforce housing. That's a big question mark. And, there's not a clear direction of how to combat that because, we're in a state where cost of everything is inflated. So how do you get workforce housing in Highlands County or attainable housing for a lot of
people? Yeah, I never really thought about that, but yeah, that's
a hard one. And so we have a handful of businesses that we're working with that are thinking creatively of how to provide housing for their specific workforce and kind of using it as a recruitment tool to get more people to come to work for them. And so that's one creative way that is being tackled to an extent. But it's interesting because while that's a challenge, I think our numbers as far as new permits for housing and multifamily housing is staying fairly steady. We definitely still have a deficit of multifamily housing in Highlands County. We definitely need to study more of that. We just did a housing study to confirm that and see where we're at now versus where we were 5 years ago when we did the study the first time. And that's definitely still something that we're looking for. But one of the things that we do, and it's really not anything we could implement, but we could kind of facilitate conversations between housing that's available and the major employers, and then also provide encouragement and resources where applicable to.
So you're working with different realtors and that sort of thing?
We have a realtor on our board, and so we work with him, and then there's a handful of others that would kind of keep in touch with us, keep on a roster. And then another place that we've gone, been learning about is UMH Properties. They have a couple of the mobile home communities in Highlands County. They're really nice. And I know that they built some partnerships with a handful of businesses here and now provide housing for some employees too.
Well, yeah, I mean, people can't stay here. They can't work here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. What makes a great economic development effort?
A community and a village of people who are willing to help and are willing to get behind it. I think one of the things about being a economic development office that's funded by your county is you have to be very creative with the dollars that you have and things like that. And so you have to really heavily rely on your partners. And so I know we've talked a little bit about our partners, but beyond, the obvious, the career source, the school board, the college, the airport, we also have all of our major employers that are here that we lean on fairly often. I lean on a lot of those business owners to come with me to talk to businesses, to help recruit those businesses to come. It takes a big team effort within our internal team within the county too, to make sure that projects get across the board. But, when you don't have financial resources, you have to rely on people resources. And I think just, keeping good relationships with those folks make the biggest difference for us.
Well, what I found, and I've heard it time and time again as we've expanded what we call our community engagement project, which is the podcast format. One thing I've heard from a number of different people we've talked to is how receptive our county board is and the airport board is and all the other services to welcome them, and I don't think that's always the case in different places.
I definitely don't think so. And I really do think the leadership that we have at the county level and in our municipalities, they genuinely get excited when we talk about your projects. They want to see new things again. That's a big part of it. When I can look
Yeah.
at a project and say, no, I think you need to meet our county commissioners and hear what they have to say, words of encouragement that they have for you, that goes a long way as well. I mean, because ultimately, a lot of times they yay or nayers when it comes to
Yeah.
the zoning application or whatever. And if you can't get that right, at least you can't get the rest of your project. But no, we have great, I think, really strong leadership in Highlands County. People who love Highlands County.
Well, what do you think if I was a business coming in to Highlands County, what would you say are its great attributes or great advantages as comparing to go to some other county?
Quality of life is what we hear a lot from businesses that are looking. They're looking for greater accessibility to all the major markets. And so anytime you get someone that comes up from Miami-Dade County, they want to be able to, where they can get from Highlands County in 2 hours versus where they can get from Miami in 2 hours is huge to them. As in the slower pace, the less traffic, the overall kindness of people in Highlands County. I had one business that came and I said, why'd you pick Highlands County? He goes, well, we stopped at this building and we were looking at it, and within our hour there, we had two different people come up and asked us what we were doing and asked us if they could have a job. And they were just really friendly. We just really liked the people and we felt like the property was a good deal. I thought, okay, well, that's great feedback. I also think we have a strong education system, a very diverse education system. And I know that that's a little bit of a controversial take sometimes. But when I look at my experience growing up through Highlands County schools and I see the opportunities that are available to students now, our school system really can serve, your college-bound students who are always focused on academics to your students who want to enter the workforce directly out of high school, from the IB program and the AP program, dual enrollment, all the way to some of our CTE programs, from welding and healthcare and aerospace and all the different things.
Well, you're talking about something that I have a lot of experience and some pretty strong attitudes about. But I agree with you. I think the school district and our economic option or educational options are good. And I think they're on the track to be even better.
I do too. And I think the fact that we can serve that variety of students well, it is impressive to me, at least. And it's something that I'm excited to raise my child into.
Well, I think one of the things just to go on that track a little bit, and I had a podcast about this, and its title was, do we change by choice or by crisis? And unfortunately, most of the time in our lives, we usually change by crisis, not by choice. But aside from that, I think when you can find an educational system that is going to support our young people to find some sort of career track or some sort of track where they're going to take some additional education, because when they come out of high school, they're just on the doorstep of getting prepared for life. Whether they're going to go for more training in one field or another, or they're going to go to college, whatever it might be. But there is something they're going to have to get involved with down the road that will give them the opportunity to be more productive. And I think we're on track to do that the right way. And I have a lot of confidence that the program will do that. Again, because of when I came up with the idea 28 years ago to Ruth Ekman, I was doing the wood shop program. And I said to her, I'd like to start an aerospace class in aviation. And she kind of looked at me and she said, yeah, go ahead. Holy smokes, and I mean, that was pretty neat how this whole thing developed. But the point I'm making, it developed because of relationships and partnerships. And that's always been my attitude. You know, when you develop a program and you have a bunch of people that are involved in it and community partners, if for one reason or another one drops out or one has to take a little lesser role than others at times, then you've got a number of horses in a harness, so to speak. There's not just one. You know, and I see that with what you're doing. You know, economic development is a partnership with a lot of entities in our county. And I hope our podcast folks will help you understand some of those things, because we can't encourage community support unless the community knows what's going on. I mean, that's what it comes down to. And so what do you think the prospect is, or where do you see the future growth areas for our county?
Why? I want to start off by saying that I do think we're seeing some very reasonable growth in Highlands County. It's growth that we're able to sustain, which I think is a really good thing. We're not growing at the same rate as Polk County, but we would never be able to sustain that. That would be really hard for Highlands County. But we're growing at a very reasonable rate for us. And I think that is really positive thing. I think some strong indicators of growth is that a lot of the new retail that's coming to Highlands County is retail that we have had nothing to do with. They have not come to us and asked us for incentives. We have not had to go out and recruit any of the retail. It's coming because they're seeing our demographics elevate in a way that makes sense for them to do business in Highlands County. So I think that's really cool. I think there's some cool retail in the pipeline too that everybody will be excited about as well. Some new amenities for Highlands County. So I think that's a strong indicator of our positive growth on the track that we're on.
Sure.
I also I know for a fact that we're getting more leads now than we have since I've been in the economic development office. So I've been here for a little 4 years now, and we're getting a lot more organic leads than we have before. Previously, a lot of our leads came from some of our utility partners like Duke Energy or from the Department of Commerce for the state, but we're starting to get just calls to our office of people who have been to Highlands County, had a positive experience, and are interested in doing business in Highlands County now. I think some of that is correlated to some of the tourism stuff that's happened in Highlands County. I think the tourism that our tourism office has recruited lends well to the type of people who are interested in also looking for new places to do business and whatnot. And there's some cool development things happening there too that we get to be on the outskirts of and involved in. They're good partners to us too. So that's been really exciting. But no, I think we have good, strong, positive indicators of growth. I think our challenges are just going to be getting our sites ready, prepared for that growth to come.
Well, it makes me think of a story that is a common story with a point. A person goes to a new community and asks the people what this community is like. And the question going back to him was, well, what was it like where you came from? Well, the people we came from were angry and, you know, always arguing and that sort of thing. And, you know, it was not really nice. And then the person said, well, you know, that's probably what's happening here. But then another person came in and said, where'd you come from? And, well, we had a great place. People are friendly, got going, worked together. Yeah, well, that's what we do here. You know, and I think it's all the personal attitude. And I think when you look at, as you said before, the people here are positive and proactive about what it is. I've always said Highlands County is the best kept secret in Florida. Mm-hmm. I mean, you know, growth can be a challenge with increased traffic and other types of things. But I think you hit a key point, and that was sustainable growth that can be managed. When you start to expand who's here and what's happening here as far as business and manufacturing, we also have to consider the infrastructure that can support it. And, you know, I think we've done a pretty good job with that, you know. So, Sarah, it's been a pleasure. And I think one of the things, folks, that we're going to continue to do, this is the first of, I hope, many different podcasts about economic development, because one of the things we'd like to do is, as those things that are in the boiler or in the pot right now that maybe you can't talk about as they're launched and become more public, we'd like to talk about it.
Absolutely.
To let people know what's coming and how they can get involved. So thanks again for being here.
Thank you for having me.
And all of you, thanks for tuning in to Flightlines, the stories behind the stories. And when you go to our website, flightlinesthestories.com, make sure you hit the subscribe button so we can keep you informed about what's going on. Our link is going to be on their site. Their link is on our site. So, I mean, those types of partnerships is what makes everybody aware of what's going on and can participate in what's happening here in Highlands County. So thanks again for tuning in. Have a great day and God bless.